Hello everyone, my name's Dr. Ellie Atkins and I'm a clinical psychologist at St George's Hospital in London. I've written a series of webinars for NHS staff and this one is about managing stress. So I first want to talk to you about what is stress, so how we understand it. And this is like a bucket. Imagine that we all have a stress bucket inside us and over time our stress bucket fills up and then sometimes it empties. And at the moment, I think it's probably getting quite full because at work, you'll be experiencing a whole load of different things, maybe working in different places, working in different ways, working under different teams, working with different protocols, working with different kinds of patients, and working with C19 as a kind of a big thing. And then there's all the life stuff and the family stuff. Maybe if you've got kids, they're not in school. Maybe you're on your own and you can't go and see your friends. Maybe you've got family members you're worried about. Maybe it's difficult to get the food that you normally eat. So our buckets are getting fuller than we would expect them to be on on a normal day. And buckets fill up and empty all the time. And that still happens during this experience. It's not like that changes. But if you imagine that probably our buckets are a bit fuller before we even go to work than they might be on a day when you can pop into Tesco's and get the food that you needed without having to queue halfway around the car park. Very many thanks to the Infant Mental Health course at Warwick University for this image. This is what happens when we get stressed. Cortisol is the stress hormone and it pumps out into our body. It does some really helpful things. It increases our blood sugar so that we've got the energy to fight the stress that we're facing. Decreases our sensitivity to pain, really useful if you're in quite a dangerous situation. It heightens our memory and our attention for certain things because it's about survival. Increases our blood pressure so we can pump that all around there. But it also does stuff like suppresses the immune system and decreases serotonin, which is that chemical that helps us feel a bit better. But remember that not all stress is bad. We all experience cortisol going around us all of the time. And we talk a lot in the literature about how there are different kinds of stress. So there is positive stress. It's normal, it's brief, it comes up and goes down and we can respond to it. And then there's tolerable stress, which is higher than we would normally expect. Our buckets are a bit higher and the threat or the adversity is a bit further up than it would normally be. And then sometimes we experience what we call toxic stress, and that's when we're going through prolonged or high levels of activation for a long time, and that can feel quite difficult. And for children, toxic stress might be coping with a difficult situation that might be for an adult tolerable, but in the absence of buffering from an adult. But remember, like I said, that cortisol is useful. Cortisol is the chemical that helps us to get up in the morning. We need a certain level of kind of get up and go in order to get on with our life. So don't think that all of this is going to have a negative impact, but there are things that are going to impact on us. Let's recognize that. So what can we do? First thing I want you to do is notice when you're stressed. And sometimes it's really helpful to think, how full is my bucket today? I feel like, over the last week, my bucket's gone up when I've had big deadlines to face. It's gone down when I feel like I've sent something off or I've done something. And that changes over time. And name that. I feel pretty stressed that I've heard we've got another patient coming in, or I'm pretty stressed that they're asking me to go to this ward now. Just name that for yourself. Notice where you are. Take a breath. If you're really busy, you can still breathe. You can talk to a patient and still be going, just breathing in this. Find a moment to pause when you can, and that might be on the loo. It might be when you're getting something out of a cupboard. Find those moments where you get them. Remember that exercise disperses cortisol. It's really good for this, and it produces endorphins. They're the feel-good chemicals. So build that into your day somehow if you can, even if it's just walking to the other end of the hospital. Our hospital's massive. If you can do that kind of thing, because we know that helps. I also think, there are other really good benefits to exercise. Getting out in the fresh air is really good for our stress levels. Sunlight is really good for it. And seeing all the rainbows around the streets has been really good for my stress levels. So exercise for lots of different reasons, but remember it does lower your cortisol levels. Set boundaries for yourself. Don't work every hour. We know that when people are home working, they tend to work more hours, and you may be doing extra shifts if you're working in a hospital. So make sure you take time for yourself and your family and for other things. Remember that stress bucket isn't only filled up by work, and we need to be attending to all of them. Remind yourself of other times when you've coped with stress. This isn't the first time you've been stressed ever. It's not the first time your bucket's been full. It may be that your bucket is a bit fuller for a bit longer. And tell yourself this won't last forever. Find something to look forward to on the other side of this pandemic. At some point, this is going to end. We're going to be through this. Focus on something that's there, even if it's, I'm not sure when I'm going to do that, but this is what I'm going to do. We talk about, when we're talking about the bucket, we talk about things like putting a tap into that bucket. Imagine if you put a tap on and you can just let a little bit out at a time. You might let a little bit out by doing a deep breath every now and then. You might let a little bit out by doing some exercise, a little bit out by, you know, FaceTiming someone in your family. Just do little things that lower the level in your bucket. And if you know how full it is, you'll know when it's really important that you put that on there. There is loads of extra support out there, so make sure you use it if this feels like your stress levels are getting quite high. If you're not sure how to put the tap on your bucket, look at some of these resources. There's a longer webinar if you're interested and you want some more strategies and more detail that I've referred to there. Thank you, everybody. Look after yourselves.